If you want to, if you're vegan and you want to hate everyone, go to news articles on Radio 2. Oh, BBC Radio 2. A controversial new study says cutting down on sausages, mince, steak, and other forms of red or processed meat is a waste of time for most people. So I haven't listened to this. Maybe I'll do this bit at the end of the video. But uh, if you, let's just say red meat doesn't cause cancer, the comments in this section cause cancer. They are absolutely horrendous. Readings of the comments of people, adults, grown adults as well, it is painful going on here. But the only caveat I must say to anybody who is vegan and sees these kind of things, you gotta kind of think that the people that are getting involved, adding their comments, these are people that you can reach out to. These are people that are engaged. So although they may be spouting really bad points, here's an example. I have a question. What if we stop eating meat? What would happen to all the animals? Very basic. Surely if something serves no purpose, it won't be kept. Farmers aren't going to keep cows just to look at them, so won't not eating them cause them to die out? So, like, again, if you've got to remember, these people haven't watched all the vegan documentaries. They haven't watched all the debates about it. They haven't learned anything. But at least they're reaching out. So you kind of go. I just put. I'm putting almost troll comments saying, "Don't worry, we're going to put them into the last remaining ones. We're going to put into a sanctuary and put a delicate breeding program on them, so that we can keep them forever. And what we'll do, we'll bring schools and children along, and we'll teach children about how we treated these animals by breeding them by the billions and killing them by the billions every year, just so we can eat parts of their flesh and cook it in a way which ended up being cancerous to humans and not necessarily the best for our health." But yeah, we kept on making billions of them, and we were afraid to stop killing them all in case they died out from us not eating them. Gotta think, imagine going into the future and looking back at yourselves there of what you just said. And yeah, I've seen. Is there any other ones that I've actually commented on here? Oh yeah, some people saying, no, the cows will be sold abroad. I said, look, male dairy calves are not profitable. I said, so male dairy calves are shot shortly after birth because they're not profitable for growing beef. There are different types of cows, and dairy cows are not always the same as your beef cows. And they're just, I did a quick Google, UK British Farmers Association or something like that, and it says, yeah, a recent Guardian investigation found that the rise in numbers of baby cows, this is just cows, not all animals, being disposed of at birth is 95,000 a year. And that's because there's not enough people wanting to buy bull calves. And yeah, nobody wants veal as well. Everyone's like, oh, veal, baby cows, don't want that to happen. Bigger cows, that's fine. Let's breed them by the billions. And then in response to that is like, avocados though. You're like, okay, so breeding cows, forcibly impregnating cows, tearing their children away from them, and if their children are not going to be put back into the dairy industry, they are being shot because they're not profitable. But avocados, yeah, oh, you're right. Because of avocados, I must now support the beef and dairy industry. Like, it's like, that's another tangent. Yeah. I'm like, so I trolled that person. They said local populations have suffered as a direct consequence. I was like, no, they haven't. Let's see, anything else? But yeah, just have a look at some of this. It's just painful. Just a lot of these are adults. There's been a couple. It's so petty. It's really petty. It's really weird. Anyway, let's go actually listen to what they said. I wonder why it's such a, what is it? It's a controversial new study. Controversial new study. I wonder what that is. Shall we find out while I do some work at the side? Right, I'm going to move you over here while I do some work.
And welcome to the Jeremy Vine Show, BBC Radio 2. Today, I think we might be Brexit free. Bacon and sausages are not as bad for us as we were told. A study says the increased risk of bowel cancer is really, really small. Will you celebrate with a bacon butty? Plus, manufacturers may be forced to make somebody who's cut down the sausages and bacon in your diet after hearing countless reports of how processed meat will give you heart disease and cancer. A new study actually says that eating less red meat could be a total waste of time. The Canadian report, published in the Annals of Internal Medicine, says the evidence is weak, and this is the crucial phrase, any risk to people's health is minor. One of the main concerns surrounding processed red meat is that eating too much can lead to bowel cancer. But this report suggests that if 1,000 people cut out 3 portions of red or processed meat every week for the rest of their life, there would only be 7 fewer deaths from cancer. So it's not a total waste of time, but it's just fractional. Let's have a listen to my colleague, the BBC medical correspondent Fergus Walsh, who put this in a British context on the news last night.
In the UK, 6 out of every 100 people will get bowel cancer at some point. The WHO estimated that if we all ate an extra 50 grams of bacon or other processed meat every day, that figure would go up from 6 to 7, so an extra case in 100 people getting bowel cancer. Now, that increased individual risk is so small, says this new study, that cutting down is a waste of time for most of us. But across a whole population, it could mean preventing thousands of cancer cases per year, which is why the current health advice won't be changing.
Well, you may have...
On a side note, to distract from this one, in the US, I may have got this information wrong, but did they not just ban e-cigarettes or vaping because 6 people may have died from complications somewhere. So they can completely ban vaping because somebody might have died somewhere, but from 6, I think it was about 6 or 7 people. But how many did he say? He said several hundred.
In 100 people getting bowel cancer. Now, that increased individual risk is so small, says this new study, that cutting down is a waste of time for most of us. But across a whole population, it could mean preventing thousands of cancer cases per year, which is why the current health advice won't be changing.
Well, you may have your head in your hands at all that. The information has changed. The health advice that's official isn't changing, though, with it. Despite the findings of the study, NHS doctors are not saying anything different to us. They're going to continue to say that anyone who eats more than 90 grams of red or processed meat a day should cut down to 70 grams a day. That's 2 bacon rashers or 1.5 sausages. They say yes, on a personal level, the risk might be insignificant, but they've got to look at it as a national thing, and from a public health perspective, it could save thousands of lives. That's not how most of us think about our food. 08000 288 291 or email vine@bbc.co.uk. Your thoughts on this, please. We'd love to hear from you. Let's go to Fergus himself, first of all, BBC medical correspondent. This is interesting.
It is interesting, and what we should say at the outset is that these researchers did an effective job. They properly analysed the data, and there were lots of comments from statisticians in the UK yesterday saying, yeah, they analysed the data correctly. But what they concluded from it, many public health experts would say was completely wrong. And it's this thing against individual risk as opposed to populations. Now, as you said earlier, they've worked out that if 1,000 people cut out 3 portions of red or processed meat every week for a lifetime, there'd be 7 fewer cases of cancer. Now you think, well, that's barely any. Well, what if you're one of those 7?
What if you're
then it's a
one?
big deal. And public health bodies tend to take their view on a population level.
I know, I understand that, but of course, all the warnings we've been given have been personal. with the idea that you've got an increased risk of bowel cancer if you eat processed meat.
But you do.
And now it turns out that the increased risk is so small, it's not worth bothering about.
Well, one thing that's been kind of lost in the coverage here is these researchers don't say just, live on a diet of pepperoni and burgers and salami. They say that if you're eating an average amount of meat a day, and it's not your sole food stuff, but if it's part of your diet, you probably don't need to do anything. They're not saying wade in there and live on a diet of burgers and sausages. They're not saying that.
No, and nobody would, I don't think anyone would take that from this. But isn't this another in the line of experts being wrong, and they won't admit it? So they've never warned us about sugar until recently. They were telling us not to eat too many eggs, which we now understand was rubbish. They've got it wrong from start to finish.
No, I disagree, because it really is how you interpret the data. Okay, so the problem with the evidence is it's quite weak. So that all of the data tends to point to, let's take bowel cancer as a good one, but we've got type 2 diabetes, we've got other forms of cancer, heart disease. But if we take bowel cancer, that's probably the most solid evidence. Now, 4 years ago, the WHO said processed meat was carcinogenic, and they came up with this figure of 18%. If you eat 50 grams, that's less than 2 rashes a day, every day, then you're going to have an 18% increased risk. Now,
increased risk.
Now, these guys came up with 19%, actually slightly higher.
But
so it's how you interpret that.
Sure, but the risk is not 18%, i.e. 1 in 5 of getting bowel cancer. The risk is 18%, very slightly higher, above the small risk that was there to start with.
Exactly, and it would take us, if the entire population ate bacon butty every day for the rest of their lives, we'd go from 6 people getting bowel cancer in 100 to 7. Now, that's fine, that's very small, unless you're the 7th person.
Yeah, but okay, I understand that, but of course stats, in the end we have to go with the statistics, which suggests a small increased risk. Is there an upside to bacon butties, which is that they make us happy? That's not a silly question.
No. I think that the really important take-home message,
unless you're
is
vegan, doesn't make you happy.
The occasional fry-up or bacon butty or ham sandwich, that's fine. We shouldn't demonise a food like that. The only sort of leisure activity we should really demonise is smoking.
Got it.
Which 1 in 2 committed smokers will die from it. A fact. And that's really hard evidence.
But we're getting more and more on dietary information, aren't we? We're getting more and more on processed carbohydrates and all that.
No, we are, but it is a balanced diet, sensible, healthy eating. And if you solely eating processed food, then you are likely to be doing yourself some harm. So I take it people are going to put their head in their hands. The really most dangerous thing to come out of this would be if people say, oh, well, I'm going to carry on. I'm not going to do any changes to my lifestyle. I'm not going to exercise. I'm going to carry on smoking. I'm just going to eat processed meat, because in a couple of years' time, they'll turn around and tell me it was well. That would be the really dangerous thing here.
Because some things that we've been told are true.
Yes.
Some of them. Okay, stay with us, folks. We've got Heather Russell on the line, dietitian from the Vegan Society. You think that the original message, which was stop the processed meat, is absolutely bang on?
I wouldn't say exactly that. The important thing is to look at the bigger picture, and I think nutrition experts can agree that the evidence base suggests that there are benefits of shifting towards more plant-based diets for human and planetary health.
But sorry, Heather, we're about risk here. So we're talking about the risk of bowel cancer from eating processed meat. And we've had a lot of vegans saying, oh, well, of course you get extra health benefits from being vegan. Actually, it turns out there isn't very much increased danger from eating sausages.
As I said, I think it's about looking at the bigger picture. And the National Diet and Nutrition Survey shows that people in the UK consume too much saturated fat and too little fruit, vegetables and fibre. So actually shifting towards more plant-based diets can help people to find a better balance. And if you look at the UK's Eat Well Guide, which are our healthy eating guidelines, they actually state eat more beans and pulses and less red and processed meat to help people to improve the quality of their diet. Because as it was mentioned earlier, dietary changes are really powerful, and there are many people that could benefit from making changes to their diet. And obviously from a vegan perspective, you're looking at the whole picture, the environment, also the effects on animals. Red and processed meats have the biggest environmental impact, so I think it's important that the sustainability message is promoted at the same time as the health message, and people have been doing a lot of work in that area.
Thank you very much, Heather Russell from the Vegan Society. So, Fergus, actually, there are other arguments against meat, and it may be that actually people who are vegan can still say they're living a better life.
Well, they can. I mean, let's talk about some of the benefits of meat then. On the other side, good source of protein, vitamin B12, zinc, iron. You can get them from other sources. But then, yes, these studies didn't look at the environmental impact nor at animal welfare. So, but this take-home message, Jeremy, it's boring, but a balanced diet, exercise, don't smoke.
Okay, thank you very much. Love your calls on this. 8000 288 291.
Can't argue with
this
that.
New medical thought that actually processed meat, bacon, is not as bad as we thought.
I wonder if they have any colons. Shall I find out?
Okay, I've been unlucky, but came through it okay.
And you don't eat it.
But,
You're a vegan.
Yeah. I've been a vegan for animal rights reasons. I don't believe in killing animals to eat their flesh.
So
I'm a conscientious one. Yeah.
But did you not feel when you got bowel cancer, which I'm sorry to hear about, did you not feel, Dave, that this is most unfair? Because we kept being told that the risk for bowel cancer was meat, and you don't eat it.
No, I didn't feel it was unfair. It gets to everyone. But it's like I don't smoke. I haven't had lung cancer, but I know people who don't smoke who have had lung cancer rather, so it can hit everyone. It's okay. I've been unlucky, but came through it okay. Yeah. It's just. But the thing is,
I was going to say, I think the thing with our stats, just to interrupt, the mistake that we're making is it's not a 1% risk extra per year, Dave. It's a lifetime risk. So you're going to have to divide that by 75.
Okay, that's okay. Well, even if you divide
so I
by
think
75.
So the answer, I think, I know, Dave. I was just going to say, sorry. I think we get to 7,000 extra cases a year, which, as it happens, I think is the number that they gave out. Now, at that point, are you prepared to give up meat to save the NHS 700 cancer cases, even if you don't know? Sorry, 7,000. Even if you don't know the 7,000, that's the issue.
Yes, that's the one to ask the general public. I mean, there's two ways of looking at going vegetarian or vegan, whether it's for your own health or, in my case, for the health of the animals.
Yeah, I understand that.
Because I know what I've seen pictures of video evidence of what the inside of laboratoires look like. So I don't need even to see those. I know what it's like. I know what the people who work in them. Their attitude is towards animals.
Thank you very much, Dave. Yeah, it's something I can't even bear to look at. Paul Smith in Selby says, if eating pork or sausage isn't cancerous on its own, then it must be the processing phase. I would never change diet. My nan lived beyond 90 and used to eat a fry-up every day. So that proves it.
Proves done.
It isn't just processed, it's all red meat, but you're right. We were always talking about the dangers of processed red meat, i.e. sausages, bacon, salami, whatever. And that's what's off the hook now. And it is an extra 7,000 cases of bowel cancer per year, but in a country of 60-odd million people, that's not very many. Angela texts, people should stop eating processed meat. My husband has ulcerative colitis and liver disease. He has an increased risk if he eats more processed meat. If people cut down on processed meat, they wouldn't get these illnesses. So some people disputing it now. Jane Clark in Newmarket says, who commissioned this report? I think the meat industry is getting worried because of the rise of vegans. Cancer aside, there are still many health issues associated with red meat. As someone with arthritis, I'm strongly advised against eating it, so I am suspicious. I don't know, I'm just going with the figures, and the latest figures say that the increased risk of bowel cancer from eating a bacon butty is minimal, so for me, it chocks away. Ken Burton in Wakefield, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jeremy.
And you've been eating English breakfast every day?
Well, I tried to get you this morning on your Radio 5 programme, but just was out of time. We are a species of meat eaters. We were born with great big fat molars in our mouth to eat meat.
Yeah, to snatch it at it, to bite it and rip it.
Molars.
Exactly.
Molars for
I'm
ripping.
tired. I have a cooked breakfast every morning, but only a small portion breakfast.
So just a couple of sausages.
And a bacon and an egg, cooked in oil, olive oil, but then I have a yoghurt,
Yes.
2 pears, and a pint of water to switch it all down with.
What have you got on
morning.
your... Hang on, Ken. What have you got on that plate? 2 sausages,
So
bacon...
one sausage, 1 rasher,
Yes.
beans, tomatoes, and a slice of bread.
What about black pudding?
No black pudding, nothing like that.
Is
no.
the bread fried?
No, it's just white bread.
I think that sounds fine. How's your health, Ken?
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say that I have this small breakfast every morning, then I follow that by a yoghurt, 2 pears,
2 pears,
and a pint of water. Then we have 3 hours on the allotment, burning all that off. We don't eat again till 5 p.m, that's our main meal, and we don't eat after then. So it's like 2 meals a day, which sustain us perfectly okay.
That is brilliant. You're as fit as a fiddle, aren't you?
Plus, in between, we have 3 or 4 pints of cider to wash that down with.
Ah, that's the thing you didn't mention.
I've just mentioned it now. But regarding the bowel cancer, in our local doctors, we have a 12-month bowel cancer screening programme, which, if anything's picked up, it would be picked up early anyway, so that's another plus.
Are they advising you against the fried breakfast, though?
No, just carry on as normal. Everything in moderation and have a balanced diet, exercise and fruit with it. And
Thank you very much, Ken. Thank you. Will in Bristol, good afternoon. Now, what do you think's gone on?
Well, I mean, the report is essentially saying what we've already known, which is that red meat and processed meat does raise your risk of bowel cancer. But what it hasn't addressed is the fact that it raises your risk of heart disease, of stroke. It's not as though it's saying that red meat is good for you. It's just saying that it's slightly less harmful than we've already had told to us many years now.
Yes, but that's quite an important proviso, because the main harm that we were told about was the increased risk of bowel cancer, and that now turns out to be tiny. But you're right, I don't know how it clocks up with cholesterol and furring of the arteries and all that. You're worried about that, are you?
Yeah, I've been vegan for 8 years, and I went vegan for my health, to improve my health, and noticed loads of benefits. I mean, so many studies time and time again show that veganism improves your health. It's not just a conversation about red meat, but also reducing our consumption of animal products entirely.
Isn't this a bad day for vegans, though?
I don't really think so, because this is one study against several others from much more sort of prestigious institutions like the World Health Organization, University of Oxford, University of Harvard. I think it's really more to sort of make headlines, but actually when you look at the science, when you look at the rate of heart disease, stroke, cancer, which are associated with animal products, it's still, the evidence is clear.
Okay, Will.
Massively improves our health.
Thank you both. Will and Ken on Radio 2.
There you go.
Sticks and stop.
There you go. That seems to be so. More evidence has come out showing that it still increases your chance of bowel cancer. It didn't mention heart disease or other illnesses, but it's just because it's not quite as big a danger as what people thought it was in the past. They think that house somehow completely invalidates it. It's like 7,000 bowel cancer cases in the UK a year. That I would like to not be one of them going on there, or at least lower my chance of being one of those people. You know, people buy a lottery ticket each year for their 1 in 52 million. Maybe just not eating red meat can be your lottery ticket that you buy each day. You might win the lottery, which would be like getting cancer. That's the wrong kind of analogy there. The opposite of the lottery. But yeah, just research has supported previous research, just brought to attention that it wasn't quite as bad as what it was, but it's still bad. in that one aspect of health. Brilliant. But yet, but if you just go to read their comments, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, I still eat bacon. I love bacon. It's never been off the menu." So on and so forth. If you want to just hate people, Radio 2 comment section, brilliant.